So 2.3 million goal for next year is 3.5. And we talked a bit about marketing and I agree with you. Like, I don't think people spend enough on marketing. If you want to grow, you have to be more aggressive. Take an extra 10, 20,000, 30,000, something off of what you're paying yourself, put it back in the company so you can build a bigger company later. And we talked a lot about communication. What else do you think other than that, like, helped you get to 2.3, like, so quickly, 2xing your company every year?
Having the right people in the right spots definitely helps. They talk, in traction and EOS, they talk about, having when we've hired the right people for the right spots, that has helped us dramatically. And when we've hired the wrong people for the wrong spot or the wrong people for the right spot, we've done all three.
Yeah.
Um, it's really hurt our company.
Yeah.
And so really being able to, hire the right person and then realizing quicker. One of the biggest things at our company is waiting way too long to let someone go, whether they be a single father that relies on you for income, but isn't doing their job right and cannot manage their personal time and their professional time, always having issues, or whether you just don't need a marketing director, because you're a $2 million company, not a $5 million company or a $10 million company.
Yeah.
Like there's just, that's an example of a spot where we don't have a spot for that, but we hired it,
Yeah.
and then hiring the right person. We have a sales guy, JP, who does fantastic. He's been with us over a year. He bleeds purple. He's wants to.
It's like a sports team over here.
We like purple at our company, and he
I
wants
get
to, like,
that.
this is his last company that he will work at until he retires. He's planning on being with us over a decade.
That's
And
awesome.
he's a team player.
That's
Wants
awesome.
to see someone succeed, and that let me take off before we even had a sales system to take some sales off my plate, and then eventually take it off my plate entirely. Like, you got to figure out. I would always say that you should hire whatever you're the weakest at first.
I couldn't agree more.
And then, like, I prefer working in the office and answering calls than, I don't know. I like sales too. I do like sales, but sales are so time consuming and they're so draining
They
mentally,
are.
that it makes it really hard to focus on growing your business when I'm doing 5 or 6 appointments a day.
Yeah. And I find it tough to switch gears sometimes, going from creative to sales to problem solving to people
to
management, like the
to
shifting.
production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think unless you got like a $10 million up company where you actually have department heads, like, leaders leading leaders kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you and I are in the same thing. Like, sometimes we'll have to put out fires, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that shifting of roles to me is one of the most exhausting things about being a CEO. But what's interesting is, I think, going back to that, like, company that's like at 500,000, like, I can't tell you, like, when you're like two, three, four, five times that, like, $500,000 mark, it is just infinitely easier to run that company than it is. Like, I think a $200,000 to $500,000 company is one of the hardest sized companies to run in the world. It's just so many things go wrong with that. Like, it's so many failure points.
But you have so many hats on. Here's the beautiful thing about running a company that's 500,000. You have so many hats and you're paying yourself for so many positions. You will make, I made
Good
almost
money.
like, you can make really good money in that scenario. Even if you're working 60, 70 hours a week, you're
Hmm.
making really good money. You're making maybe the same amount of money as a lawyer or someone else that's really highly paid, because you're a highly paid person that does 7 jobs.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to grow. I like, even if it's self-consciously or subconsciously, they want to make sure that they're like, oh, well, if I hire a salesperson, I'll lose 7% or
Yeah. I've heard that
6%.
concern before.
That is true. You will not make as much money. We at 3.5 million, $3.5 million. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 times, 7%. Let's say that I could probably hustle and sell that much, if I really wanted to, and I focused on nothing but sales. That's $245,000 that I give to my sales guys, that
Hmm.
I will to this year.
Yep.
And that's, yeah, that is, like, my salespeople are the highest paid people on my team.
Hmm.
And from an accounting perspective, they make more than me, but like I said, that's mostly optional for me. And I'm the only one that has multiple homes.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
but also like there's a difference between like paycheck taken home versus equity built in a brand that you're building too.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I don't think you're trying to sell your company, but there is value in it if you ever got it to a point you wanted to, right?
yeah,
And that's value that the salesperson is not going to have. And so for me, like I remember like backing up like 15 years ago, I had that same kind of mindset. I had a smaller company and I focused on what my take home pay was kind of above all else. And
yeah,
that forced me to stay put because I was in that same thing. Well, dude, if I hire this other marketer, if I hire this salesperson, then I don't get that portion of the money. But now I'm wearing the 7 hats and I can't get out of it. I was in that, like Jason Phillips talks about the contractor freedom, right? You're in this. I don't think it's more than contract freedom. I think it's just small business jail. You know what I mean? Like in order to break out of that, you have to break out of doing too many things, right?
yeah,
And yeah, you probably will pay yourself less before you'll pay yourself more. Because if you just like $500,000, $1 million company, you hire a salesperson, you'll make less if you don't also grow. Like I don't
yeah,
want to hire another person on my team and not grow. You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense to me, right? The idea for me would be to hire someone on the team and then grow to make it worth it.
yeah. Well, I mean, like we made so much money our first like 4 or 5 months that we're like, I'm taking the winter off. We're not going to worry about it. This is more money than we had ever seen in our lives. I just like before I started this company, I worked at Home Depot making $15 an hour as a
Oh, I didn't know
manager.
that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, literally, I worked at Home Depot making 15 an hour as a manager. I'm sure there was some, those guys can make good money as a store. Like if I wanted to go the corporate route, those store managers make over 250 grand a year,
Yeah.
$250,000. But that includes a lot of leadership training, and whether I did that at Home Depot or as personally as at my own company, like I didn't make 245,000 the first year, but we worked 4 months and I made at least 60, 70.
Which is
you
way
know,
more than you were making at $15 an hour.
yeah, like I made my whole salary in 4 months,
Yeah.
or maybe it was like 3 months. It was like crazy. Like but also keep in mind that I was working twice as much as a regular 40-hour a week job.
Yeah.
I was hustling. I hustled the first. I say that I don't hustle now. I was in the office like till like 8 o'clock last night, but generally speaking, I go home at 6 or 7, and I don't hustle like I used to.
I think you know how they say like most businesses like fail within the first like 5 years, like 90 something percent of them fail within the first 5 years.
Yeah,
I honestly feel um, that talking about that, like working 1,800 hours a week, I think that that's why,
it's the
you
burnout.
know, yeah, I feel like that it's the burnout at a personal level that gets you there, not the company, right? So like if you don't put enough systems in and you continue to wear those 5 to 7 hats all the time, and you have to do the 60, 70, 80 hours a week, eventually, I don't know anyone that wouldn't grind on.
Well, it gets. I mean, we did it for 4 months, and I was like, let's take 2 months off. It took us 3 months before, like, all right, let's start it up again.
Yep.
Part of that was winter; it was getting slow, but also part of it was just like I just needed some time. I wish, you know, I just like it's just part of. I pride myself in being someone that can work very hard when needed.
Hmm.
It's just like you can't do that nonstop. At least most people cannot.
I don't know anyone that can, man. So like, I know you know I was in the Air Force, right? So one of the things that like is never depicted in any military war movie that I've ever seen is the buildup of stresses, not just from like being away from family, because that's a part of it too, but the insanely long hours with no breaks. My
Mm,
first deployment was roughly 18 months long, 7 days a week, no days off, at approximately 16 to 18 hours a day. That is wildly hard to take a young 20 something year old and just go do this thing. And it's just like, but you can't not do it because it's a literal war, right? So, I mean, you can't not do it. But like, I've never seen a movie that portrays that kind of stress. And I
yeah,
think that, like, while if you're deployed in the military, you have zero choice. But if you're home running a business, you have a choice. You
you
don't
got
have to run 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 3, 6, 12 months in a row,
yeah,
but you have to build systems and teams to get away from it.
yeah.
But that's a luxury that business owners have, and I think they should take.
That's why I think people, anyone that starts a business should be prepared to hustle for about a year.
I'm not saying you shouldn't. Like, you're not going to just come in and like build this giant team right away. You're going to have to hustle. I'm just saying, like, I would recommend building systems and teams as soon as humanly possible, so you're not hustling forever. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you're looking for help growing your contracting business, I invite you to join my free community. In there, we go live with amazing trainings, share resources and downloads, plus you get free help from me and from peers. That link is down below to join, and we'll see you in the next video.